Well, welcome back to another speaker's tip. Last week, I gave a tip on the importance of your message, your takeaway, and that is your focus, that the entire creation of your speech is to have the audience leave with a specific message that they're going to take with them, and that should touch the heart and change the mind of the audience. And I got some email back from 4 or 5 different people that were saying, well, that's fine, but they see in the Toastmasters environment, and I know some of the people that watch my tips aren't Toastmasters, but this is an important point across the board. In the Toastmasters competitions, what they see rewarded are a lot of gimmicks that come up. And I see that all the time too. Now, there's a difference, in my experience, between a Toastmasters speech competition and being a professional speaker. A significant difference. Number one, the Toastmaster speech contest, most of the speakers aren't even close to being a professional speaker. And they're competing against somewhere between 5 to 10 other speakers to be the best speaker of that specific competition. So they will do things to try to separate themselves out and be clever. And I'm going to talk about those in just a second. But on the professional side, people hire typically expertise. They want someone who respects the audience and connects with the audience, and there's not a clear winner. So it's not like you're trying to beat another speaker. When you're a professional speaker, you're there with your message and you need to get it across. But there's also a lot of similarities because you still have the communication of a speaker to the audience. What I want to talk about is the gimmicks that people see. And I'm going to keep this pretty short and to the point, hopefully. The gimmicks I see in the Toastmaster speech competitions, and I've seen hundreds of them, I normally feel the speaker does not have the confidence in their message. They don't have the conviction behind their message. They don't have the oratory skills to deliver their message. So they're trying to come up with a gimmick that will sort of trick the audience in the fact that they did something that other speakers didn't, and that's gonna make them stand out. But to me, it's a major distraction from the message that they're trying to get off, because normally those gimmicks are just gimmicks. Now, there were a couple specific examples that, if you're familiar with the competitions, and in 2001, Darren LaCroix came out and he fell down on the stage, flat on his face. And he was talking about, we get this great idea and you come out and then you fall flat on your face, and he falls on his face on his stage. And he starts talking and giving a speech, laying on the stage. And it was funny at first. And I was in the audience that time. And I'm sitting there watching Darren on the stage, laying there, and he's talking, what do you do when you fall down? Do you jump up right away and act like nothing happened? Or do you lay there and hope nobody sees you? And I'm sitting there going, Darren, get up, get up. You're killing your speech. You're staying down too long. Get up. You're killing your speech. He was on the stage for probably a minute or more. And then he stood up and he said, did you think I stayed down too long? I go, yes, you stayed down too long. He goes, have you ever stayed down too long? And man, that thing hit me. And I realized it wasn't a gimmick. What he was doing, he was getting his message across. He was getting us to experience his message. He was making us uncomfortable with what he did. At least he made me uncomfortable with what he did. And in a later speech, I think it was 2014, Muhammad Khatani comes out and he lights a cigarette in front of the audience. First thing he does is walk on stage and light a cigarette. And the whole audience goes, and he goes, what? There's nothing wrong with smoking. And he goes through this whole thing and tells us all these lies about how smoking is not harmful and cancer is caused by DNA and everything like that. And then he says it with tremendous conviction. And he says, and like all those words I just said, those are totally untrue. He got us to experience the words, but he could only get us to experience the words by getting us to react to something we objected to, which was the lighting of the cigarette. That was a very critical point in getting his message across to the audience. Now, I've seen people come out in clown costumes. I've seen people drag ladders across the stage. I've seen people wear different clothes and they undress during their speech and change things, you know, because of the way that they dress, and they have different layers of clothes on and things. And really what it comes across to me is that those people the gimmick that they're doing is distracting from the speech. And they don't have the confidence to just stand there and tell us what they really, really believe. Now, coming back over to professional speaking, if you start throwing a bunch of gimmicks and tricks and stuff into your professional speech, you're not going to get hired again. That's what's going to happen, because it's going to detract from your speech. It's going to detract from your message. And it's not a professional way to speak. But the point I want to make is that a lot of people can't tell the difference when they see something on stage, especially if they're an inexperienced speaker. They'll look at somebody did something clever. Oh, I'm going to do something clever. And after I saw Darren fall on the stage, that's when I saw all of a sudden a lot of people in the competition speeches trying to do something a little different than somebody else did, because they didn't understand that that action, that gimmick, I'm going to call it, had meaning, and it was an integral part of the speech that forwarded the message and had impact on the audience. And if you do that, it works. If you do it just to be clever and just to be tricky, and nobody expected it, and you did it, but it doesn't forward your message and doesn't impact the audience, it's not going to work. So that's the line of demarcation I have. Over here, it doesn't work. If it's actually forwarding your message and it's getting the audience to react and it's causing the audience to question something, or it has an impact on the audience, that forwards your message. Not just has an impact because it was a surprise. It forwards that message. It can work, because that's the design of the speech. The whole opening body of your speech, conclusion of your speech, is to get that message across. And that's why I want to go over, because I did get some feedback on it that people were feeling that a lot of people were, doing crazy, stupid things and getting rewarded for it. And the other thing I've talked a lot about is acting, falling on the stage, crying or screaming and yelling in some way that something happened. And it's very uncomfortable, because they're not screaming and yelling at the audience. They're screaming and yelling at something on the stage. It's not there, but they're acting like it is there. That's a detraction from your audience. And it's a detraction from your message, and it doesn't get the message across. It actually alienates the audience. So it's okay to do some crazy stuff, as long as it forwards your message, impacts the audience, takes them where you want them to take them. And in the end, the speaker that gets their message across in the clearest way, that touches the heart, changes the mind of the audience, and that audience walks out of that presentation thinking and acting differently, is normally the better speaker. That's the tip for today. I'll see you next week.